Tag TV, and Tag Radio, rapidly becoming the leading technology new media in all of Georgia and the Southeast. This edition of Tech Talk is brought to you by Integrated Learning Solutions. Wait, worry, or take control at integratedlearningsolutions.com. Increase sales, productivity, and client retention, lower training costs. integratedlearningsolutions.com. Hard to remember the huge computer rooms of the early ages of the computer industry. Complex to operate and maintain, even needed a special environment to operate. Remember, cables everywhere to connect components, racks to mount equipment, elevated floors, cable trays overhead and under the floor. And then there was the issue of huge amounts of power and cooling to avoid overheating. Oh, yes, and then there was the issue of security, not just for the expensive equipment, but the intelligence and data that needed to be protected. Superior IP networks, the most advanced N2+1 parallel redundant power, monitoring SAS-70 Type 2 certification, trained technicians 24/7, 365, co-location, dedicated server hosting, and backup storage servers. Welcome to the new normal, and welcome to this very special edition of Tech Talk with Technology Association of Georgia President Tino Mantella, as we look into what's next in co-location, infrastructure as a service, and route optimization bandwidth with Tino and his guest, industry leader and technology entrepreneur Jeff Hinkle, Principal and President of AtlantaNAP, NetDepot, and of Global Net Access, GNAX. Jeff founded GNAX and acquired NetDepot in 2001, having now taken the company to industry prominence as one of the largest providers of on-demand IT infrastructure in the world. Recently expanding GNAX, Jeff launched AtlantaNAP, a premier mission-critical data center facility in the southeastern United States. GNAX has over 2,000 servers under direct ownership and another 4,000 in which the company provides co-location and network services. Fast internet access, nonstop operations, infrastructure as a service, lowest latency, and highest throughput. Tino takes hosting this Tech Talk to the ultimate as he speaks with hands-on executive, industry visionary, and leading entrepreneur in co-location, dedicated servers, and backup storage servers, GNAX Global Net Access and AtlantaNAP President and Principal, Jeff Hinkle.
Jeff, thank you for joining me on Tech Talk today.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
So let's just jump right in. I think our listening audience, first of all, just make sure they're clear on what is AtlantaNAP, and also how would you draw a distinction, say, with your company? What are the differentiators? What's unique about your company?
Okay. Well, the AtlantaNAP is a co-location company, and we have some sister companies that we do business with as well, which are in our family, and they do managed services and infrastructure as a service, which we can talk about shortly here as it applies to the overall market. What differentiates us from our competitors is the ability to combine that highly managed serviceability for our customers' computer needs and support in a menu format, so that they can go from just raw co-location of putting their computers here in a highly available facility up to having us help them manage them on an ongoing basis. And then additionally, we have Tier 4 power here, which is a multiple redundant feed, which gives them a higher uptime as well as a high security standpoint here with armed guards in the facility. And we've done these things based on our experience and listening to what our customers' needs are for our specific client base, particular to the Atlanta market. And those are a few small differentiators that set us apart from some of the competition that we deal with.
So some of our companies obviously run their own data centers, and then there's others that are believers in co-location. So maybe speak to the reasons that companies would select co-location versus running their own data center.
Sure. We see the movement of companies away from running their own data centers for a couple of reasons. One, as money gets tight, you look at the CapEx required to build out a data center, and they're typically in the $400 to $800 per square foot range. So you have expansion now, needs of companies, and they're saying, hey, we we want to figure out a way to turn that into an OpEx, because CapEx for something that is not our core mission of our company, whether they're selling cars or they're an airline company or what have you, they want to invest those dollars in what makes them their money, not an overhead support group necessarily. Additionally, every operation that they support within the company that is not core business critical to their value proposition to their customers is a slice of time that the C-level executives have to spend on that operation. So if you run your own facility, your own data center, you now have a certain amount of your time and mind share all the way up to the C-level group that has to focus and spend time on that, bills for maintaining the air conditioners and the UPSs and things. Additionally, you get into scale issues to where on a smaller scale, you cannot deliver the same level of nines and uptime that a company that is doing this on a larger scale for multiple organizations can, when it is their core mission and value proposition. And that's another way that a company can, for maybe the same internal operating cost, deliver that to their internal organizations, but they're delivering it, maybe adding another 9 on. And they're now able to focus all their time and effort at a higher level in the OSI model, such as software delivery or the interface to their clients, the online portal for transferring money as a banking applications versus the very bottom of the barrel operation, which is, in reality, running the data center, running the electrical, running the air conditioning. That's the basic bottom level of operations. So we see them getting their nose out of that and getting up to the higher critical activities that make them money.
Well, there's been, just switching gears a little bit, the term software as a service has been out there now for a few years. People seem to understand what that is. They're gaining more information of it. They talk about the cloud and virtualization. And there's a new term, at least it's new to me, that's emerging called infrastructure as a service. So is that something similar? Can you talk a little bit about that?
It is very similar, although usually it stops at the hardware level and or the operating system level, whereas software as a service or managed software platforms, they're going to manage the application for a client or run that application like Salesforce.com or a few others that do that. Infrastructure as a service is kind of the next evolution to where clients are saying, I like this co-location idea. We've been co-locating. We are now deciding that we don't want to own and operate our computers, and it's becoming mainstream to where those clients are saying, what can you do for me? Can you run these computers for me, provide them for me, give me the ability to add computers in there as I need more room for other applications to run on. If I need less, you can downsize it for me, but you guys take care of the hardware, do it efficiently in the scale that you do it, staff it 24/7 for me so that I don't have to have the additional 7 or 8 operators to cover the 24/7 and weekends, and then maintain the spare parts inventory there because you're doing it on the scale of thousands of computers so that I don't have to wait for factory service to come out 4 to 8 hours later to replace the computer. You guys are doing it within 15 to 30 minutes to give me a higher level of uptime. And we've been doing that for 10 years, doing outsourced operations on computers. It's just never had a real moniker like that. A lot of people have called it dedicated servers,
right,
or other things. Now, infrastructure as a service is kind of the new marketing term, but there's a few of us that have been doing it for a long time, mainly to the very high-tech community that already kind of got it and said, hey, we don't want to do this. We want to just log into our box and run it, and we want it in a big data center with large pipes. Now the mainline business community is starting to get that and say, hey, we want that too.
Well, you made some good points. There's 24/7 observation, and anything that goes down, you can manage that. There's probably some security benefits there and efficiencies, and I'm sure you guys have a case for cost as well.
Absolutely. Those are all key points that play into this, and some of it the cost comes from scale. where we're buying thousands of computers versus a mid to small size company is going to have, anywhere from 2 to say 30 or 40, and they just can't effectively or as effectively purchase that, manage it, and spare for that on site as we could.
So another area that our listeners would be interested in is backing up data, particularly critical data. Everyone's concerned about security and protection today. So what are companies doing to back up their critical data?
Well, there's a couple of things. Most companies today, we've seen them either still doing tape, and possibly tape rotations off-site. The bigger the organization, typically, the better they've been at doing that. But there's many that are still either taking a CD write of their data once a month and taking it home, which the reality is that even a smaller or mid-sized organization, if they were to lose their operations, say 5 days before that happened, they're still going to be in a world of hurt. As the Internet has become cheaper to have larger bandwidth pipes into the offices, the ability to back up to what's, some people now refer to as kind of the cloud storage model, but the ability to back up to storage that is off-site at a larger facility has become very affordable. And a lot of the organizations out there, including ours, will typically give the client the software to run that backup off of their machine, so they're not having to go out and do a CapEx on an expensive piece of software, as long as they're backing up and storing that at the off-site facility. And that does a couple things for them. Once the initial backup is done, the amount of data transferred back and forth is typically not a large volume that's going to bog down their connection. It can be scheduled overnight, so it's being done to where they're not even being impacted by the movement of it. And then they are able, if they have problems that the servers go down, their facility burns down, whatever, they're able to bring that back up quite easily. Recovering files that might have been deleted accidentally, recovering an entire system, etc. The next level of that is the larger co-located clients are now doing things like asynchronous and synchronous disk replications, to where their entire file systems are backed up geographically remote, say to our Dallas facility, and that happens automatically as well across private links between the facilities, to where they can instantly recover if they lose their equipment here. It can even be a disgruntled employee that might delete a part of it on their departure. And there's some regulatory compliance issues for people in various different industries as well that allows them to comply with.
Well, I have time for one more question. There's another term out there that I think our listeners would like to know more about, and that's route optimized bandwidth. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Traditionally, corporate clients and businesses out there have gone to a provider and purchased a bandwidth link from them. That will be one backbone, a pick company X that brings that in. There's a couple of us that do this, but the route optimized bandwidth is basically picking several backbones. You go out and you take the 7 or 8 because we do it in such a larger scale than an individual corporation would do. And then we have a set of software that will go out and optimize the routes off of each one of them, basically picking the best routes to get your traffic from A to B through the Internet. And it does that by the same way that the users are measuring their experience, which is typically by traceroute and packet loss. Whereas in the old format, typical BGP, which is the protocol that the Internet runs on, is just doing it by how many networks does it have to get to, which doesn't leave you with the best Internet surfing experience. So we analyze where the traffic runs best based on the user's experience, and then we override the backbone routes based on those better routes and combine, basically the best of each connection in a select set of optimized routes and hand those to the client. So they're getting a little bit of the best of each one, and it just makes the browsing experience better. If their applications are co-located here in our facility, it makes their application performance much better to their clients that could be located anywhere in the world. And it also helps to route around outages because one upstream backbone provider may be having an outage to that client doesn't mean that another one is. So it's intelligent enough to route around those and give a higher level of uptime.
Well, Jeff, thank you very much for talking to me on Tech Talk today, and best of luck. Your company's doing a great job, and thanks for being a great supporter of Georgia technology, and best of luck to you.
You're certainly welcome. Thanks for having me, and we appreciate the time.
Thank you.
All right, take care.